everybody. Welcome to the program. We are here with a special edition, as we're calling it, our Throwback Thursday Talk Series on All Around Town Radio from the beautiful All Around Town Radio studios in downtown Springboro, Ohio. Welcome, everybody, at this weird hour we're doing it at today. So, hey, I've got a special guest that you're going to want to hear all about today, so we're going to get right to it. We're going to welcome to our program singer-songwriter and Academy Award-winning composer, and also best known as the frontman of the 80s rock band Franke and the Knockouts, and just some little things in life like co-writing Dirty Dancing hits called I've Had the Time of My Life and Hungry Eyes. Help me welcome to the show Mr. Franke Previte today, along with my good friend, if I can get the cursor to work here, Jeff Stevens from Mix 1077. How are you guys?
Good. I'm doing well. And there's my friend, Jeff.
And there's my friend. What's up, Franke? Good to see you again, man.
You're what's up. You know, right there, Dayton, Ohio, you're what's happening.
He is what's happening, Franke. I agree. And he's in one of my favorite bands going 30 years strong now. They're celebrating their 30th anniversary, Stranger, here in town. I try not to miss a show, man. I love their shows. Fantastic.
That's one of my favorite bands as well. And Jeff, you know, we got together out of the blue and created some really cool stuff. And Jeff will tell you about that.
Yeah, created some real magic.
That was about 4 years ago. Yeah, we connected with what ended up becoming a mutual friend, our buddy Ken, and kind of connected. I was interviewing Franke about the anniversary of Sweetheart or something, and then we did an interview similar to this, and then we talked about re-recording that great song from Franke and the Knockouts called Sweetheart, and we had the audacity to ask Franke to re-sing it with us. And
I immediately said yes and lowered the key.
And I thank you for that.
Well, let's start at the beginning here, and then we'll get into that at the end. We're going to talk about that because I want to hit on that because I love the collaborations my friend Stranger has done with all kinds of people. We had John Wade on the show one day, and he raved about Stranger. So you guys all seem to have a lot of things in common, and that is that this band that likes to work with other people has a lot of fun, and that's what we're going to chat about at the end. But Franke, you've been making music a long time.
My dad, going back from Jump here, was a opera singer, came here when he was a child from Italy. And so, growing up, I was always, in kind of around music and my parents taking voice lessons from the same vocal coach, kind of watered the seed for me to always be around music. And when I remember 4 years old was the first time I heard my dad sing at Convention Hall in Asbury Park. And what I remember of that day at 4 years old was sitting on my mother's lap, seeing my father come out and start to sing a song that I remembered him singing at home, rehearsing before the concert, the opera. And I knew that he was going to hit this big note. And I got very, very excited and stood up in my mother's lap, and right before my father hit the note, I belted that note, and the place went crazy. And my father stopped the concert, went, "Ladies and gentlemen, my son," and I consider that my first gig.
Well, I guess we know where. I don't need to ask where you got your inspiration then, because it sounds to me like that was the inspiring moment for you to play in front of all those people.
The best part of all of that was my parents continued to water that seed and say to me, you know what, sing. And at like 10, 11 years old, I was doing charity events that my father would have me singing in Italian, O Sole Mio, and then Love is a Many Splendored Thing, and all of these songs that I had no idea what I was even talking about. But it created, the Jones of, wow, this is cool. I wasn't doing it for money. I was doing it because, wow, people liked it.
Yeah, there's a rush to that attention thing. There really is. And when I was talking to people about having you on the show this week, and you're the guy everybody knows, but they don't know. You
Yeah,
know,
well,
when you mention your name, sometimes they're like, okay, that guy did. And then when you start talking about your accolades and all that, people are, oh, wow,
well,
that's kind of
it shows,
cool.
shows like this. It's people like Jeff that help connect the dots of Frankie and the Knockouts and Dirty Dancing Time of My Life. And people don't really equate those two things until I start doing talk shows or I start doing podcasts. And they go, oh my God, you're that guy? And, without people like Jeff and like you, I'm just out there, headlining my shower.
Well, Jeff, I know Jeff. When Jeff does an interview, he because I kind of model myself after Jeff's interviews sometimes, and that is, I pick up some research, and Jeff does his research, and we've talked a little, and Matt Smith from the band Stranger and I have talked a little, but you've been in a bunch of bands, and one of them that you started with was Frankie Love and the Intruders.
Smile when you say it.
That's kind of wild.
That was our line.
At 15, right? At 15 years old, you were Frankie Love. All right.
Or you're digging now. So when I was 15, yes, there was Frankie Love and the Intruders, and we would open up for like the Duprees, and we would play the CYO, high school concerts or whatever you call them. And then, my cousin and I went out and started walking the streets of New York. And a very popular song at that time was called What's Your Name by Don and Juan. And so we walked into, I believe it was Bell Records, and Scott English was the A&R guy. And we said, we'd like to sing for you. And we sat down, and my cousin played piano, and we did What's Your Name? And he was like, I'm signing you guys. And so he gave us these like hokey songs to learn. And he said, make them sound like Beatles songs, make them sound, more contemporary. And so I don't know who was Poker and who was Chip, but we were Poker and Chip and the Five Studs.
Wow. What a name. I love it. Well, you like I said, you've been in a bunch of bands. Who named the band Bull Angus is what I want to know.
Well, we were, I was in a band before that called the Oxford Watch Band, and we were on a subsidiary to Apple Records called Hand Records. And we recorded in Hempstead, New York. And that band toured with Rod Stewart and Deep Purple and Fleetwood Mac. Bull Angus did. But the other band did some originals and was a club band. And from that band, the drummer and I started this. We saw these guys in Poughkeepsie, New York, and said, let's put a total original band together. And so we rented a farmhouse in Rhinebeck, New York. And the guys that were producing the Oxford Watch Band had heard about us and came out to see us. And we played at the Sugar Shack, which was in Columbus, Ohio. And Jeff Franklin from CIA, which was an agency that had Rod Stewart and Deep Purple, was a co-owner of that particular club. And he gave us a record deal and said, I'm going to hook you up with a producer. And the producer he hooked us up with was the same producer who had no idea that he even started this band, that produced the Oxford Watch Band. And so we went in, and within like 12 days, we recorded the whole record just live, Bull Angus. And Jeff Franklin, we were playing Red Hook High School on a Friday night, and I get a call from Jeff, and he goes, what are you doing next Saturday? And I go, I don't know. What are we doing? He goes, you're opening for Rod Stewart at Madison Square Garden.
Wow.
Wow.
So
how about that, Jeff Stevens?
Red Hook High School on Friday night. And the following Saturday, we opened for Rod Stewart and went on tour for a month and a half with Rod Stewart in this band called Cactus. And Cactus was the reforming of the Vanilla Fudge. Mm. And so there we were touring America. We went from Rod Stewart to Deep Purple to Fleetwood Mac, and we played the Pocono Mountain 250,000 people festival in the Pocono Mountains. Talk about being nervous. I mean, you know, it had rained and people were getting flown in helicopters, the bands, because the traffic was back 20 miles and people were walking to the festival. And I remember being on stage because it rained, and then about an hour went by and Mother's Finest went on, and then we went on. And I'm looking down at the crowd and I see my mother and father in the front row. And I'm like, how the hell did my mother and father get into this festival? And I'm on stage and I see this bottle of wine with acid in it and people taking a chug of it and handing it to the next person. And I see it getting closer to my mother. And I'm getting ready to sing. And I look and I yell out, don't drink the wine. And then we started the song.
What a story. And yeah, this Jeff, did you like the way he just kind of rolled casually off his tongue? Rod Stewart, Deep Purple, and Fleetwood Mac. You know, like it's just a household thing he was doing. Yeah.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, I can't imagine taking that big a stage with those kind of players.
What that did for me, it was it let me go to school, go to music entertainment school, in the sense of watching Rod Stewart perform in front of 20,000 people every night, and watching how he would have them in the palm of his hand. He would put like 10 soccer balls on stage before the concert, and he would kick them into the audience, into the back of the arena, because he used to be a pro soccer. Right. And just watching and learning from the pros was an experience for me. I went to school.
No doubt. Let's talk. Is it 1981 maybe that Sweetheart became a hit with Frankie and the Knockouts?
Yeah, there was no real Frankie and the Knockouts. It was the Bull Angus band kind of broke up, and I came back home, and I was like trying to write songs, and finally I met this guy Bert Padell, who was the accountant for the Stars, and he took my tape and he sent it out to a few people. And this guy, Jimmy Einer, who was the president of Millennium Records, and Jimmy used to produce Three Dog Night and Eric Carmen and the Raspberries and John Lennon and a bunch of people. And he was the president of Millennium. And he gave me a record deal. At that time, it was just me and Billy, the guitar player from Bull Angus, writing songs. And he said to me, you have a band, right? And I go, oh, yeah, we got a band. No problem. So I called a bunch of my friends and who were in club bands, and I said, let's go do this record, And so the last song that I wrote for the record was Sweetheart. And I went into Jimmy's office and I played it for him. He goes, it's a really good song. It's really popping. You want to be a rock and roll band. You sure you want to put that bullet in the gun? I said, load the gun, Jimmy. We'll deal with it later.
Well, obviously it worked, because hundreds of thousands of bands that have been out there over the years have never had a top 10 hit. And how did that feel? I mean, that had to be wonderful.
My dream was always just to hear myself on the radio, singing a song that I wrote. And to have it be a top 10 song was like beyond my expectations. So, yeah, I was really, excited. And so me and Billy were sitting home, and our manager, who was Michael Kleffner, who also managed the Jefferson Starship, called and said, watch Fridays, this coming Friday. And that was a show that was kind of like Saturday Night Live, but it was on Friday night. And I said, sure, why do you want me to watch that show? And he goes, because my other band's on there. And so, at the end of the show, Larry David comes out and he goes, and next week, special guest, Frankie and the Knockouts. And I'm like, oh, shoot, there is no Knockouts.
Oh, my.
Oops.
So Michael calls me, our manager, and goes, what do you think, Frankie? What do you think? And I go, Michael, I got to tell you something. He goes, what? There is no Knockouts. It's me and Billy. He goes, you better have a Knockouts by next Friday, because you're live on television. Wow. So
no pressure.
Up, and we learned 2 songs and put the endings on them. So that Friday we performed. After I hadn't performed now in 2 years, we performed Sweetheart and Comeback off the first record. The next day, we're on American Bandstand. The next day, we're on Solid Gold with Dionne Warwick. And he says, you got 1 week to put 10 more songs together because you're on tour with the Beach Boys. And that was the beginning of Frankie and the Knock.
What a story. I don't know what to say, Jeff. Do you? I mean, that's just
no. I've never heard quite that in depth of how you guys got started like that. I just, I was just a kid listening to the radio and hearing Sweetheart, and I bought your 45, and then I went out and bought your album, and just became a fan, not knowing any of that behind the scenes stuff. That's pretty awesome.
It was life-changing in the sense that it gave me the chance to hear a lot more than just one song on the radio. And, Sweetheart at that time, they did a promotional giveaway. They did a red vinyl 45. And they sent Godiva chocolates to all the PDs and the MDs secretaries. And it was released on Valentine's Day. So, they had a
smart
plan.
Move.
Just 45 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow. So let's fast forward a few years.
Sure.
All of a sudden you pin this melody and lyrics to this little song called I've Had the Time of My Life, which I understand may have been the last song they listened to for that movie. Is that true?
Yeah. So Jimmy Einer, that same guy that had the record company Millennium, shuts down the label. And, Frankie and the Knockouts kind of goes south. We did one more record on MCA that, MCA wanted to make us more heavy, like Night Ranger. We're going to have Night Ranger come in and remix your record and the producer. And so radio wasn't ready for Frankie and the Knockouts to try to be Night Ranger. And so MCA dropped us. And I'm writing songs trying to get another record deal. And Jimmy calls me out of the blue. And he goes, I got this little movie. I want you to write a song for it. It's Jimmy, I'm trying to get a deal. You closed your label. I said, I don't have time. He goes, make time. This is going to change your life. And I go, right, you're going to change my life. And he goes, no, I got a good feeling. I said, so what's the name of the movie? And he goes, when he said Dirty Dancing, I was like, oh, no, he wants me to write to a porn movie. You really changed my life.
So which one first did you write? Hungry Eyes, or did you write I've Had the Time of My Life?
John D. Nicola, through a friend, David Prater, who had this little recording studio where I was doing my demos in his basement, trying to get this new record deal. I got this guy, John D. Nicola, and he's got this track that needs some lyrics. So I called John and I said, yeah, I really like the track. I'd like to try to put something to it. And he goes, go ahead. So that very first song I wrote with John D. Nicola was called Hungry Eyes. So I had already written Hungry Eyes for the next Frankie and the Knockout record. And when Jimmy called me, he gave me like a 5-minute description of the movie Boy Meets Girl. The father doesn't like the kid and they end up together. And I said, okay, so on the Garden State Parkway in New Jersey, exit 140, John sent me a track of music and I put it in my dashboard and I started going, in the time of my life, in the time of my life. What the hell am I saying? I scribbled time of my life on an envelope in my car. And, the man upstairs really wrote the song because I had no idea what that movie was about. Until I met Patrick Swayze at the Academy Awards, and he wanted to know, tell me who wrote the lyrics? And I said, I did, Pat. And who wrote the melody? I did. I said, why is this so important? He goes, because we had listened and rehearsed to a Lionel Richie track. We had listened to 149 songs. And we really didn't like this movie because we didn't have a great ending. We were just going to do a cover song. And he goes, and Jennifer and I weren't getting along at all. And so we really just wanted to get this movie over with. And I said, okay. And he goes, then the director, Emil Ardolino, walked in and went, wait, we have one more cassette. We might as well listen to it. The 150th song was Time of My Life that they listened to at 12 o'clock at night. And he said, we just looked at each other and went, let's go make a movie. Let's go do it to that song. And he goes, by the morning, we finished filming at 6 a.m. and we just went, holy crap, what a great ending. Let's finish this movie. And the camaraderie, he said, just like flipped. And the next day they filmed To Hungry Eyes with me singing. I sang the original demo that they filmed to and Hungry Eyes. And so I sell those demos now to raise money for pancreatic cancer. I donate all the money to the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network. And so if anybody wants to hear those and buy those original demos, you can go to Dirty Dancing Demos on Facebook. All the money goes to pancreatic cancer.
That's awesome. And I also know you've done some charity work in the past as well for the, I believe it's called the First Responders Children's Foundation. And I'm a first responder of 30 years, and I can't tell you how much that's appreciated.
Awesome. Yeah, after winning the Academy Award, I was chosen as one of 25 songwriters to represent the United States. And I went to Russia with Barry Mann, Mike Soler, Cyndi Lauper, Desmond Child, Diane Warren. 25 of us went to Russia. And so we're sitting there with 25 other Russian songwriters in Moscow. And, they start playing their music. And it was very military-like sounding. So we're like, okay, all right. And we got to pick out somebody we want to write with. Then this blind Estonian sat down at the piano, and nobody told him he wasn't Ray Charles. He started, someone like you. Everybody was like, we want to write with him. We want to write with Sergei. Well, everybody can't write with Sergei. So we're going to put all the names in a hat, and you're going to pick out a name, and that's who you're going to write with. Well, when you know that I picked Sergei. And so Sergei and I wrote with Pamela Acosta a song called One World. And Earth, Wind, and Fire recorded that song, One World. And then I wrote another song while I was there called Cold Sky with Cyndi Lauper and one of the Russian stars. So 50 songs were written in 9 days. And Columbia Records picked 10 songs to make a record called Music Speaks Louder Than Words. And out of the 10, I got 2 songs on it. So when COVID hit, what I did was I said, you know what? I want to re-record One World and put it out as a single and see if I could raise money for the First Responders Action Fund and for the Actors Guild and for the Musicians Foundation. And so we recorded the song with a bunch of different people, somebody from Toto, somebody that sings with Michael Jackson at the time, backup singer, somebody that was the lead singer from Tower of Power. And so all of these people sent in their stems, recording the song. We sent them a basic track of a keyboard and a drum track. And then somebody, sent in their bass track. Somebody sent in their vocal background track. And so the guy that I was doing it with said to me, I have 200 stems here from all of these people. I don't know what to do with them. There's too many. I don't know how to make a song out of this. And I said, well, I have a friend called Bill Schnee, and he's a really good, he goes, you know Bill Schnee? And I said, yeah, he did the last Knockout record. And so he goes like, if you can get Bill Schnee to mix this, more power to you. So I called Bill. He said, send me the stems. We sent him the 200 stems, and in 3 days, the song One World had a new life. So I released it. I released One World, and it went top 25 AC. And nice. I donated the money to those charities.
Well, you sound like you've been around the world and back a little, and you've landed here in Dayton, Ohio as well with our friends from Stranger.
Thank God.
And yes, and what wonderful people they are. And Jeff, maybe you can quickly, I know you've got to run here on me, so please quickly lead into what you guys did to collaborate with Frankie and some of the songs you recorded.
Yeah, we did that first interview, and I felt like, Frankie and I hit it off, and then we were talking about, well, how great would it be to re-record this song? So I went in with the rest of the band in Cincinnati, and we recorded the track and sent it to Frankie and said, hey, what do you think? And would you want to put in, your vocals and kind of make it almost like a duet back and forth? And he was like, hey, this is a really cool, I think I'll let Frankie say, how he felt about it. But I really felt like this version spoke to you and made you want to jump in.
Well, it spoke to me because it finally had the meat and potatoes that was missing from the original one for me. It was a rock and roll version of Sweetheart, and it had a real heavy guitar solo in it. And if that version would have been released as opposed to the original, I think it would have went higher than top 10. And
Wow.
you came up with, well, let's do Hungry Eyes.
Yeah.
That Hungry Eyes version was recorded maybe a year and a half ago. It's on the new Frankie and the Knockouts red vinyl that got released last week. So I got a call from Friday Music, and they asked me to pick out, every one of your best knockout songs that you like. And I said, if I can include the new version, the stranger version of Hungry Eyes, and a version of Time of My Life that I sing with Lisa Sherman, who I married, who is just a great singer. And so those two new versions are on this red vinyl that got released on FridayMusic.com, and that's how you can go check it out. It's pretty cool.
And I understand it's a little tribute to our friend Rob as well in there.
Oh, big time, big time.
Yeah.
That was a real motivating thing for me to want to do for not only Rob, but for the whole Stranger family.
That meant so much that you did that, and it still does. And we had such a connection because then, Scott, not only did we have this recording of the new version of Sweetheart, and then we would eventually a couple of years later do Hungry Eyes, but we actually played a couple live shows and had Frankie and his wife in town, and actually got to perform the songs, including Hungry Eyes and Time of My Life, and a couple other surprises. We got all on at the end. We did actually with Bill Champlin of Chicago too.
Yeah.
And Bill was here, and we got to do a big finish at the end. We all covered "Hold the Line" by Toto, and we had all of us on stage, Stranger and Frankie and Lisa and Bill and Tamara. It was really cool.
About 3,500 people in the audience too that were like psyching us out.
Yeah, that was a special moment. So
really,
so we've been able to record together and perform live a couple times,
and then become really good friends, and that's the best part.
That's outstanding.
That is absolutely. I could have never imagined the 1981 version of me in 8th grade or whatever. Hearing that guy on the radio, because I not only love Sweetheart, I love You're My Girl and Not Another Lonely Night Without You. I mean, I have 2 or 3 Frankie albums and your singles, and so to actually have a friendship after all this time, in addition to all this great collaboration stuff, the friendship. When we saw each other a couple of weeks ago in Troy at the APAC at your show that you're producing, it was just like, I mean, truly like seeing an old friend.
Well, we didn't miss a beat,
No.
We didn't miss a beat.
Perfect.
And it was like really good to see you, and just to have you there to see what I'm doing now, and then to let you know that this record's coming out, and Hungry Eyes has another life because of you.
Well, we feel the same way, man. Now we'll just talk to your friends, and we'll get that in the sequel next year, right?
That's what there's going to be a sequel, that Jennifer, What Happened to Baby 40 Years Later.
Wow.
And so, obviously that movie needs Time of My Life and Hungry Eyes to be in it. And so, it's going to take place in the 90s. So this is kind of works, a little different twist of it. It's a little slower, a little rockier, just a cool version of Hungry Eyes that when people hear it go, wow, this is a really cool twist that you've done to the song without, changing. There it is. There he is.
The red vinyl. And there's Frankie.
Red vinyl.
Thank you for that visual, Jeff Stevens.
We're high tech here, man.
We are. Well, I was trying to get that up on the screen earlier and I couldn't get it to load here. So I'm glad you had it with you. So, Jeff, I know you've got to run, buddy, but I can't thank you enough for being a part of this. I got a couple more questions for Frankie before I go. So if you got to cut out, we totally understand. You're a busy man in the radio biz and everything else you do. And the announcer for UD basketball and anything else I can throw in there, right?
Yeah, and you mentioned the 30th anniversary. We're going to be busy this summer, that's for sure. And any chance to get Frankie back and do something with you, man, would be great.
Let me ask you, where's Stranger playing next?
Next one is our big 80s throwback prom in April here in about a month or month and a half or so, and that'll be the next one.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Are you doing a pre-St. Patty's Day party though somewhere?
Oh,
aren't you?
Sorry, we are doing that. Yeah, the pre-St. Patty's. So March 16th and then April 18th, and then the summer is going to be really full. So
summer schedule looks great, Jeff. Thank you so much, Jeff Stevens, Mix 1077.
Yeah, Frankie, we'll see you soon, bud.
You will definitely see me soon.
All right, see you guys.
Right.
Thanks, Jeff. All right, Frankie, just a couple more, and I'm going to let you go here. I know you're a busy man, but we're going to talk about that rise to fame after Dirty Dancing. Those songs became mega hits, just absolutely amazing. And you're still, I'm sure, reaping the benefit of those songs in some way, fashion, right?
Well, you know what? It really has changed me from, when I won the award, I was 41 years old, still thinking I was going to be a rock and roll star. And then I wrote a song that was bigger than me, and I became a songwriter. And so to have a song become evergreen, because that's what they tell me it has become, ASCAP sent me a list of the most played songs, the top 20 most played songs in the world ever. And so I want you to guess who number one is.
Oh, that's going to be tough.
It's a song that everybody sings to you once a year.
Okay, happy birthdays in there.
There you go. So that's the
that
number.
Makes sense.
Right? Number 5 was My Girl by the Temptations, which was one of my favorite songs. And number 15 is Time of My Life.
Wow.
So,
how's that make you feel?
I was like freaking when I saw that. I was like, oh my God.
No doubt. I mean, that's amazing.
1987, I won, beside the Academy Award, I won a Golden Globe. And then one of my favorite awards is the ASCAP Song of the Year, the most played song in the world.
Amazing. And you were nominated too for a Grammy on those songs, correct?
Yeah, we were. And you know what was interesting? That the song Somewhere Out There won. And that's a great song written by Barry Mann. But it was also nominated the year before. So it was 2 years in a row that they nominated Somewhere Out There. So they really wanted that song to win. But it was great just being nominated to be there and, be a part of that history.
Well, I have one last question for you today, and
Sure.
I'm going to lead in with this first, and I'm going to say, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure to have Frankie with me. I've heard so much about you from Jeff and Matt Smith, both about what a pleasure you are to talk to, and you certainly are. And as we've heard today, you're very humble with all the things you've done in your life. I mean, you've done some remarkable things, toured with remarkable players, and that to me, the humbleness is just amazing.
Well, I think that is attributed to my parents and how I was brought up, and realizing that my success didn't come until much later in life. The early success was to keep me in the game, and my parents' inspiration of "Don't quit, you can do this" really kept me in the game. They gave me a place to live and $25 a week to take voice lessons. So, without having that kind of support, I probably would have done something else. But, knowing that I had that support, and it just was something that I felt I was destined in my life to do. And I didn't want to do anything else. I didn't have a B plan. So.
Well, that takes me to 2 more questions then. Number 1, if you could describe Frankie in one word, what would it be?
I guess persistent. You know, I'm pretty dedicated to my vision. So persistence.
And you're still doing it.
I am, because, you know, you got to keep your feet moving, and this musical seed keeps getting watered, and I keep enjoying it, you know?
Perfect. Well, my last question I ask of everybody, whether it's a local band or a national player and someone on the level you are as well, I'm going to say, if you could take the stage with one person, past or present, who would it be?
You know, one of my iconic people that I loved was Muhammad Ali. You know, so meeting him would have been really great. But one of the Beatles, you know, I've met Ringo, but a Paul McCartney would be really cool.
Outstanding. Frankie, it's been a great pleasure to have you on the show today, and I've learned a lot.
God, you know, I look forward to maybe doing it again down the road, and, you know.
Yeah, next time you're coming to Dayton and some collaboration, we'll all get together with Stranger and have a little fun and do a quick interview.
That would be great.
That'd be great. Well, thank you, Franke Previte, everybody. Thank you so much, Frankie. Man, the things you have done, I admire you. I can't not watch Dirty Dancing anytime it's on. It's just one of those movies that draws you in, and the soundtrack makes it. And your songs are the ones that make it iconic. So perfect.
Thank you. I appreciate
Thank you. All right, guys, we'll be back with you live at 5 today with Who's Playing Out, the best musicians and venues in the tri-state and who's playing where. So join me for that live at 5 today. Until then, thanks, Frankie, and we'll see y'all later. Get out and support some live local music tonight, folks. Bye-bye.
There you go. There you go.
We're out of here.
Well, have a great time.
Just hang with me 1 second, Frankie.